What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Got a special guest with me today. Some of you guys might know him. Him and I have a decent history. He's one of my closest friends, even though I don't see him very often. It's because I keep my enemies closer. I think that's the phrase, right? Enemies closer. Your friends,
you live
whatever.
you live on the other side of the
Everyone
world.
says that. It's so frustrating. You know, I should introduce you. We're going to dive into everything Arizona Cardinals draft, the special edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Before I introduce my guest, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, potentially even tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. That's how my guy Jackson Groff, who's joining me right now from the Groff Show. You can follow him on all social media platforms. I thought it was the Groff Show, but now I see at Jackson Groff, so it sounds like he's just plugging his Twitter, but you'll be able to find the Groff Show everywhere else. I mean, this guy, I asked him, I was like, hey, you mind coming on with me after the draft, which the draft is wrapping up? And I thought he was going to clout reject me, but look at him, lo and behold,
no way,
staying humble to his roots. My guy, Jackson Groff, how you doing, man?
No, good, man. Yeah, I know it's a little confusing, the Groff Show podcast, but I haven't done a podcast on YouTube in a while, focusing more on social media. But, man, no, anytime to come on here, dude, and talk ball. We did radio for a while, and especially us being Cardinals fans, the NFL draft, love college football. So it's fun to see, like, kind of the mesh here between, college football and the NFL and kind of pairing them together. And, I'm excited to break all these down, man. I think the Cardinals will, we'll give your opinion, my opinion on what they've done so far. But I would say it's probably a good draft, I think.
The reason why I bring you on, and like oftentimes be like, people check out shows with the Sycamas or the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world. There is truly no one who I know personally on a level like I do with you who I think knows college football better. And people will learn that by the end of this. He's so good. He's got John Middlecoff eating out of his hand, John Middlecoff, that's actually not true. That's so disrespectful to say. But you'll catch him on the 3 and Out podcast every so often doing some college football work with John Middlecoff on that show as well. So he is just killing it on all things. Let's just jump right into it. Take it from a 30,000-foot view, and then we'll just get right into the nitty-gritty, the real disgusting stuff when it comes to evaluating the NFL draft. Jackson, this is the question that everyone would like to know. Giving letter grades, right? You were probably an A+ student. I was a C- student, just staying out of trouble with mom and dad. Where would you grade this Arizona Cardinals draft? We still have, when you and I are drafting, 2 picks to go, but 15 minutes from now, it'll be over. How would you grade it so far?
Yeah, I think it's tough for NFL draft classes to do grades. I know McShay's and, the Daniel Jeremiah's of the world, they don't like giving grades after draft classes happen. But if I had to say, based on the value of the prospects that they've had and where they've sat, now I do think there's a lot of risk with some of these prospects, like Walter Nolan, the whole character issue, the consistency, him being lazy on plays. But I think with him alongside Calais Campbell, I think that's going to be gone in a hurry, hopefully in a year or so. And the press conference of Gannon saying that Nolan was going to take care of Will Johnson, who's pissed off. The Will Johnson knee concerns. In an interview, they said with the media that he hasn't had a knee. He hasn't dealt with his knee in like 2 years, so he doesn't understand where all this is coming from. And then with Jordan Burch as well, like a guy that's a little slower. He's 4'6" in the 40. I think he's like 6'5". He's huge, but he's not that like speed edge rusher. He's kind of one of those, he's going to engage with you, really powerful, and kind of read, where the quarterback's at, which is good for some of those speed quarterbacks. I'm going to go low. I'm going to say B, but I'm just going to say that because I don't know if I want to give it an A-, because I think with all these drafts, there's always risks to all these prospects, like all these guys, especially in, quote, a weak draft class. I'll give it a B, but I think it definitely has a lot of upside to, we could potentially see a lot of these guys be cornerstones for the Cardinals in the next 10 years. What would you grade?
Well, I would just say, that's because you don't know ball. That's what people would tell me when yesterday after the Walter Nolan pick. Like, one of the things that I'm not here to do is to blow smoke and tell people just how great their team is to make themselves feel good, because that's not something that lasts for very long. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a little low, but I would side with you because I dive into the NFL draft, and obviously I'm a big college football fan. I love watching it, all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's more like I don't dive into these players until 3 months prior. I'm trying to figure out these kind of things, but that's what you're here for. Like, you have found your lane with college football. I think you do a phenomenal job with it. And so with some of these guys, like, it helps me feel better. I would give this a B+. The Walter Nolan thing, it's hard for me to get out of my head of, I felt like it was conservative. And this is where you and I can fight about this, and that's totally fine. Is for me, like, if you could choose one player in this draft to transform the Arizona Cardinals, it would have been Abdul Carter. And I seriously, I say this tongue in cheek, but also maybe not so much. I would have given up every pick they had to go get that guy. But then you see the totality of the draft: Jordan Birch, Walter Nolan, Will Johnson. And I'm like, damn, would I give up all those guys for Abdul Carter? Probably not, but I didn't know that's how the board was going to fall, and that's why they pay Monty Ossenforth the big bucks. I started after the first round giving them a B-. I'd go with the B+.
B+ is reasonable. Yeah, I think B+.
I think it's because of that Will Johnson aspect of like, I begged for them to be aggressive, and that feels aggressive to me. And right there, like, if anyone holds it against the Cardinals because Will Johnson doesn't work out, it's like, think about it. This guy has the potential to be, in my opinion, he reminds me of Patrick Surtain. Like, I don't hand out those kind of compliments. He reminds me of that kind of guy. Physical, Jonathan Gannon, what people don't know is he started off with the defensive backs, and he, like, that's his bread and butter. And so those type of guys coming to the Arizona Cardinals, like, I just really enjoy that. Is there a favorite pick for you? Maybe it's Simon. Maybe it's Birch. Maybe it really is Walter Nolan or Will Johnson. Is there a guy that you're like, yeah, this guy's just going to be better than everyone else?
I think it's Will Johnson. I mean, it's hard not to say him. I mean, we texted before who the Cardinals would want on 16, and I was saying Will Johnson. I was streaming, posted a reaction video. I cut out before that when I was reacting to Walter Nolan. I was like, Will Johnson, and he slid to 47. I think he's pissed off. I like that side of him. I like that he gets to work alongside Marvin Harrison Jr. This is a guy that's big. He's fluid. And don't take this last year's film. Take the year when they won the national championship. Go back to that year. Because that year, with the defense that they had, with Jim Harbaugh and everything they had around him, with a good offense, like, this was a defense also that played a ton of snaps because their offense was horrible last year. I just think a physical corner, especially a guy that comes in pissed off with a chip on his shoulder, and finally someone that's a tall corner. I feel like the Cardinals and their room right now, I mean, they never had a solidified number one. I think you add a solidified number one, Will Johnson. I'm interested to see how Max Melton does next year. This defense is starting to seem more like violent, physical, tenacity. Like, it seems to start being like we used to grow up with, Gerard Powers and Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, like bad mother efforts. Like, this is what the Cardinals defense is starting to be like. Because now you sit back and you're like, could the defense be better than our offense? Like, I mean, some of these guys, I mean, the depth they have on the defensive line, you have a solidified number one, and we'll see how they rotate, with Will Johnson. They'll probably have him with the twos at the start, but I think Will Johnson's my favorite pick. To get him at 47 like that, you do kind of question why other teams passed on him, but you also kind of look and say, well, some teams didn't really draft a corner. I think the first corner that was drafted before him was Maxwell Hairston, and then it was all the way to 47. So I'd have to go Will Johnson.
It was the kid from Texas who I told you I didn't really like, Jahdae Barron. He was picked.
He was picked, and then Hairston, and then I don't mind Barron. I'm glad the Cardinals did it because Barron's kind of like an in-betweener, and I think he fits more with the Broncos because they already have Surtain, they got Moss.
Exactly.
So you can kind of put Barron there. You can put him in the nickel. Like, we already have Garrett Wilson. You already have so many rotational corners where it's like, I don't think you need a solidified number one guy. And I still can't believe they got him. I can't believe they got him at 47. I know they're thrilled about it. And I mean, this is the common theme in this draft: SEC, Big Ten. Like, the Eagles go out and get a bunch of Georgia guys. Cardinals are like, okay, we're going to get Ohio State guys and Big Ten guys. You can't argue with that.
Well, you also can't argue with the fact that for years it was like Grambling State and just like players that you were where did David Johnson come from? Northern Illinois or Northern Iowa. Like, it was too often of Steve Keim trying to outthink the room. And this year, what they do is they just decide, yeah, you know what? We're not doing that. We're going to go get dudes from Ohio State, the team that just won the championship. And you look at teams like Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman, I'm not even sure he scouts anymore. I think he just looks at Mel Kiper Jr.'s top boards, looks at the college and says, all right, I'm just going to take the guy from Alabama and Georgia. I'm a little skeptical about Jordan Birch because he's not the fastest guy, but still, he ran a 4.6 and he's like 6'6". So it's not like he's slow. It's just around the edge. I probably want a little bit more speed. This defense, and I'm starting to agree with you. It's starting like when Jonathan Gannon had talked about, like, I want it to be violent. I want it to be all this kind of stuff at his opening presser. The definition of that, you're starting to see it in this defense. And Darius Robinson, like this defensive line from last year, was god-awful. There wasn't a singular guy on there that you thought could potentially start under another team. And with Darius Robinson coming back healthy, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Josh Sweat, Baron Browning, who was fine last year for a 5th-round exchange. And now you add Birch and Walter Nolan, and then Will Johnson. You forget about Rabbit, Taylor Demerson, Jalen Thompson, Budda Baker. Do you feel like, because I do, that this defense is starting to reach top 10 potential talk? And if that's the case, dude, this is a defense that if they had a top 20 defense, they would have made the playoffs last year, but they couldn't stop anyone. I think back to Chuba Hubbard and Kenneth Walker gashing these teams in games that they desperately needed to win, or Zach Charbonnet. It's just great to know that I don't think that's going to be an issue this year. In fact, I worry now more about the offense than I do the defense. What say you?
Yeah, I agree the same thing. I think Birch, to your point earlier, I think he's going to play more defensive end. I think they're going to kick him inside. I think they like especially Rallis. I think they're just going to go speed. They're going to try to win speed on the outside with Sweat, with Ojulari. I'm interested to see how they use Darius Robinson. I feel like we always forget this guy was a 1st-round pick last year. He's still a 1st-rounder, and we talked about it the other day on the radio. Like, I think this year will be his rookie year. So I'm really interested to see him specifically, like, hey, buddy, like, this is a big year for you. Also on top of it, like, you're going to be at training camp this year. I mean, this defensive line is going to be probably 3 times bigger than it was last year. I mean, you had Roy Lopez, Justin Jones, and Bilal Nichols. Those guys are starting to kick back, in the depth chart as well. But I agree. I think it's going to be a top 10 defense. I think you got more pieces of the fire for Rallis. So I'm really interested to see, what he can do scheme-wise. I think the one outlier on this defense, and I don't know if it's that big of a deal, because the linebacker position, if you have such a dominant defensive line, I think it's going to help the corners, obviously, with pass protection and stuff like that as well, to be able to go back and cover, not to have to cover for like 8 seconds like they did last year because they had no pressure. But the linebacking core with Akeem Davis Gaither, I like Mac Wilson Sr. Davis Gaither is going to be the mystery guy because they haven't really gone out and re-signed Kaiser White. Curious your thoughts on Kaiser not being signed yet to the Cardinals. With that being said, I love Cody Simon. You get a guy from Ohio State, a linebacker from Ohio State, and they've had so many Eichenberg from last year. You go back to A.J. Hawk and all the linebackers they had before, the national championship defensive MVP, Rose Bowl MVP, and it helps too that Justin Fry is the offensive line coach for the Cardinals, who was from Ohio State too. So having him, a vocal leader, a guy that's been in a scheme like Ohio State, and I'm sure it's going to transition well to the NFL. I think that was a good pick by them. To solidify and add more depth just in case Davis Gaither is not great. But your thoughts about the linebacking room and then Kaiser White not being re-signed yet?
So I think after this draft, and we still have 2 more picks to go, and honestly, we haven't missed it yet. But
we're going to be live when that comes. We're going to be live when that 6
we'll be able to react to it in real time. Hopefully they don't take some 7th round guy from Grambling State. We just both have to admit we didn't watch Grambling State this year, and we have no idea who he is. Hopefully it's someone at Ohio State again. But before we get to the Kaiser White thing, and you know what? No. What I will say about that is I think you learned in this draft you were not going to re-sign Kaiser White or Will Hernandez until after the draft. And now I think both those guys still unsigned that you're like, okay, come on down. We'll take you here. Let Kaiser White mentor Cody Simon, maybe play, that mentorship role a little bit. Mac Wilson Sr. as well. And then it was, like you didn't get a lot of offensive line help at all, actually, in this draft. And that's a guy as well that I feel like you would want to bring in and help solidify the offensive line, although he had that knee injury last year. And I know you mentioned guys like Roy Lopez, who we know, obviously, over to the Lions. And we were both upset about that. Bilal Nichols, I'm not so sure is going to make this team now. I didn't think we'd be at this point. And now I'm not so upset that Roy Lopez is gone because I don't know if he would have made this roster now with Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Birch, who I'm sure will play some inside, but mostly off the edge. Darius Robinson, who's going to thrive in the interior. All those kinds of guys for me, man. But going back to Cody Simon really quickly, what I really loved about that selection, and you kind of just mentioning the linebacking room, one of the reasons I don't really care is because linebacker is just not a premium position like it used to be. You're more worried about cornerbacks and interior pressure, and then obviously off the edge as well. Linebacker, you can get away with guys not being awesome. I mean, the Eagles plug and played Zach Bond last year, who was a borderline camp body last year, and then turned out to be one of the better defensive player of the year candidates. So what I like about Cody Simon, and although I'm upset they didn't get a different linebacker from Ohio State, that being Jack Sawyer, plays more off the edge anyways, probably wouldn't make a ton of sense.
It would have been tough after Birch.
It would have been
like,
tough.
It would have been a weird fit, like in the third round. Like, are you reaching for Jack Sawyer?
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's crazy though with Jack Sawyer. He ends up with the Steelers with TJ Watt. It's like
he's going to be awesome. It's so frustrating. He's so obviously going to be good. And now that he's going to the Steelers, I'm like, oh, great. They just got a future all-pro player. But, going back to the Cody Simon thing really quickly, what I loved about him is he was like team captain. He was, along with Emeka Ibuka, like the two leaders of that team. So not only are you getting guys that seem like they play violent, Rose Bowl MVP, national champion MVP, you're getting guys that were leaders on that team. Like Jack Sawyer and Emeka Ibuka and, Marvin Harrison Jr. had played with him at one point. Like all these star-studded players that have played with Ohio State, especially defensively, like took orders from this guy. Even though he wasn't the best player, he's calling the plays. Or he's in that linebacker core, like he's one of the leaders. And the fact that he's the captain, those are the type of traits that not just physical skills that the Cardinals took for a very long time, took chances on guys that had character issues. It almost matters as much now for this team. Not if you can play, it's how are you in the locker room? And then on top of that, you got Justin Fry, who people just continue to forget is the new offensive line coach and came from Ohio State. You don't think he doesn't know? You don't think he wasn't like, hey guys, I know I worked with the offensive line group, but I was in the coaching meetings. All anyone could talk about was how great Cody Simon was lifting up his players. That kind of stuff gets me jacked up, man. And then you look at some of the things that he can do. Dude hits violently. And so, it kind of sucks they didn't get Jack Sawyer, although with how the draft board felt, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. That Cody Simon pick, I heard it. I saw it this morning, and I was like, wasn't on my radar, but damn, does that feel like the right pick? I'll let you pick up where I left off there.
No, yeah. I mean, him being a captain, especially with the Ohio State season, like you got to think like they were in the downs and the dumps after losing to Michigan, and him alongside Jack Sawyer and all these leaders on this team, like he had to be one of those anchors on the defense that was loaded. He was the guy that had the communications in his ear to get everyone set and get the play going. I think he'll be the same way. You could kind of compare him, I guess, to a Kaiser White. I mean, I do like you mentioned like high IQ, high character guys. You hear that a lot in the draft, and those aren't statistics. And I feel like people, when they hear analysis or analysts talk about it, they kind of just blow past their head like, okay, like that's all I hear is high character, high IQ. Like, what does that matter? But it really does. And it's kind of weird. I feel like only Arizona Cardinals fans or people who are on this team, like, let's be honest, from a national perspective, Arizona Cardinals not talked about a lot, and deservedly so. Haven't been on the map in a while. Haven't been on the playoffs in a while. I get it, but it's so cool for Gannon and Monty Ossenfort. I heard an interview with Michael Wilson on Fox 10 talking about how when he goes in the facility, it's just a bunch of good dudes and it feels like a college program. That stuff matters. The culture matters. The locker room matters, and bringing in guys like you mentioned that were captains, that were leaders of big programs, a national championship. Ohio State Buckeyes, that's going to translate over. Now we'll see with a rookie, is he going to be a little more quiet at first? Like, I mean, I would be quiet if I was a rookie in the NFL, especially with all these big guys. You don't want to push on 80 toes, but I just think it's rewarding as a fan. And, we both cover the team that they're just bringing in good dudes. Like, you don't have to worry about like the off the field stuff. Like we've been through the Robert Kondichi and how he was supposed to be a great pick and the off the field stuff. And we've been through, oh my gosh, Washington, the outside linebacker who was supposed to be like an insane outside linebacker. I'm losing his name right now. I think it was Darrell Washington. Remember him? Remember he had that one year that was like absolutely he was one of the best.
Couldn't stay out of trouble.
I thought he was going to be one of the best edge rushers. Yeah. Couldn't stay out of trouble. Like, I think that stuff matters. And it's an exact replica of the Eagles. Like, it's the same thing. Like, I'm going to copy the Eagles. Like, why would you not? They're the Super Bowl champions. They all come from there. A bunch of high IQ, high character guys. I mean, look at all these. I mean, even though Nolan comments about his character, I've seen videos of him, and even Gannon saying at his press conference he was going to talk to Will Johnson. I think part of this is media driven, but I look at all these guys. They come from great programs, great high IQ, great character guys. Like, that's what you want. You want people. And I remember when even I was at Montana, like, I was always so amazed when the coaches would recruit all these guys from all these states and they would come together in a locker room and we would all get along. It's admirable how football coaches can do that and not only get the talent, but get guys that could mesh well with the locker room. That stuff matters, and especially in the NFL where it's like all these guys have families. All these guys aren't like together hanging out. Probably most of them are hanging out on the weekends and stuff. But what are they going to be like in the facility? Now, you hope that the facility improves from year to year because being 32nd in the NFLPA, like that stuff just makes me mad because the treatment of families being an F, like that's just stuff it irritates me for Bidwell because it's like it doesn't take a lot to fix it. So
you need to pick up your end.
Yeah, you need to pick up your end. But I just think it's rewarding, to see change and see a culture being established because we sure didn't see that. We didn't see that when that ball GM was there,
We still have a ball GM.
We do have a bald GM. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the bald fat GM.
Yeah, the bald fat GM with the drinking problem who would cut guys like Michael Floyd for drinking and driving, which is wrong. But he did the same thing. For those that don't know, I have a decent relationship with Tony Jefferson, the former safety for the Arizona Cardinals, and he told me like that turned off a lot of us. Like that turned off a lot of our players. Cardinals just made their pick, by the way, a guard out of Texas, small school, just the Texas Longhorns playoff team, Hayden Connor, 320 pounds, 6'5" guard. I think ultimately what you're getting at this point, because
did you mention Texas?
Yeah, Texas, Hayden.
Okay,
Connor.
I didn't know if I thought you went past that. I was like, oh, you went to Texas, like a
no.
Here.
I was making a joke that before we were talking about how hopefully it's not a guy from freaking Panera Bread State University, but it's Texas, which is again, what do they go back to? The Big Ten SEC. Well,
exactly.
Late in the draft, we're just going to get guys who are versatile and continue to grab depth. Like the likelihood that you're getting the next Zach Martin at the guard position in the 5th round, not great. It can happen, and you're swinging for those fences, but you're getting another guy that allows you to add depth, 6'5", big player, 320 pounds. Looks like he's a seasoned guy. He's 23 years old, so if I'm not mistaken, he's either a junior or a senior. I don't know much about the guy. I'll let you take off for it if you want, but the biggest thing from there, it's a 6th-round pick. We're adding depth at this point. We're just trying to hit singles. Like before, I would always say Monty Ossenfort's just trying to hit doubles. He's never trying to hit a home run. We're just trying to get a walk at this point. Just get on base. So with a guy like him, I like the pick. You've done enough on defense. Drew Petzing gets his guy, maybe not the deep threat that he wanted, but a guard as well. And after this, we can kind of talk about the things that they didn't do. But I'll let you take this one over for a second if you would.
Yeah, like. I mean, you can't say anything wrong. I mean, I'm looking at his draft analysis right now. 43 games, started out of 51 at Texas. Texas back-to-back years was up for the Joe Moore Award, which is like the best prestigious offensive line. And you saw with Quinn Ewers. I mean, the only time he got really sacked was against Ohio State with those edge rushers, against Georgia, which I was at too, which were like the 2 best defensive lines. Other than that, like the interior. Not a lot of bull rushes. I like this pick, 6'5", 320. I was interested. I was going to talk about this too, about the guard position. That was one need where do they feel comfortable with Isaiah Adams in year 2? He had to fill in some time from Illinois. I know Evan Brown got some. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. Besides those 2, a guy named Royce Newman they have at the starting spot in the right guard. I don't know much about him. So there's a lot of no-name
guys. Yeah,
there's a lot of no-name guys at right guard. I mean, you get a guy from Texas. Anytime an offensive lineman from Texas, 6'5", 320, and I think when I went to the game, I think he had one of those like neck things or whatever, those neck rolls.
Oh, the neck rolls,
yeah. Which you're a tough.
You're a bad mother.
You're a bad dude. I have no problem with it. I'm glad they did go guard eventually in the 6th round. I mean, he could have upside and get some reps. Like, I have no issue with this coming from Texas, and they had one of the best offensive line in the last 2 years. So I'm just going to trust the analysis. I'm going to trust, Gannon. And I wonder if Drew Petzing just woke up. Like, has he been sleeping this entire time because all these defensive players are starting to come? But I have no heartburn with this pick. I think it's just another good pick.
Drew Petzing's just sitting in the corner, slyly nodding in agreement, like, oh yeah, man, happy for you. Like when he's not really
just crossing off all these offensive guys that he wanted and they already get taken. He's like, damn, he's gone. Yeah.
It is let's move over to that. Some of the things that the Cardinals didn't do. One of the reasons, and I put out, so everyone puts out like their 5-3 guys that they think that the Cardinals would draft or what they would do. I put that out on Twitter. It did pretty well, obviously, for my account. I've got like 900 followers, so I'm not gonna.
Nice.
I'm not Daniel Jeremiah, or I'm not Josh Jackson Groffing it at this point.
Mhm.
But I put Josh Simmons 2 on my list because of the concerns a little bit with the offensive line. I'm just don't believe in Jonah Williams. Like, I just don't. There's a reason why he flamed out with the Bengals. I've worried about that patchwork at the right tackle position last year. Kelvin Beachum continues to be a pro's pro, man. Continues to be rock solid, but he is older. I worry about that. I'm just going to trust the fact that they have Kyler Murray and a good offensive line coach. So I kind of wanted Josh Simmons, but I did want Edge or Will Johnson more. Turns out I got both of them. Any concerns, whether it's offensive line or not, that you're worried about that the Cardinals didn't hit on? And I've got a feeling you're going to skip this and go right over to receiver, so I'll just let you have at it.
This guy knows me so well. I want another receiver. I really did. I'm not saying a first-round pick. I'm not saying a second-round pick. Third round, I was tempted because of the guys that were still on the board. I think at the time, like a Kyle Williams out of Washington State, a nice slot receiver that played a lot of time. I wanted Torrey Horton Jr., the kid out of Colorado State. I do think there are some maybe in the 7th round. I am shocked they didn't even glance at a receiver because maybe they trust Michael Wilson. Maybe Michael Wilson will have an exceptional year 3. And maybe Drew Petzing will realize he used Greg Dortch in the wrong ways. Or maybe a guy that we love a lot, Xavier Weaver, starts to come in the equation for this season. Or maybe they like the wide receiver they got out of the Chargers, Fiocco, or even Zay Jones will wake up after what happened last year with his suspension. I just wanted to see at least one receiver because this receiver class was, quote, weak, which I was kind of like puzzled by because I did think there was a lot of receivers that fit the mold of the Cardinals to be like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. And if you have an upside even beyond that, like kudos to you. But it felt like last year with Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver position, especially with these DBs, so like these dudes are men. These are men. You know, they always say like man strength or dad strength versus like our strength is just different.
Yeah.
Like I could bench way more than you, but for some reason, these dads just have this dad grip where they can just beat the hell out of you. Like I remember from like college. In college, we did a tug of war at a camp in the summer, and we had all these coaches versus players. And we even had some couple offensive linemen and defensive linemen, and the coaches beat us because they have that man strength. Like that's the type of stuff where for Marvin Harrison Jr., he's so young. Thankfully he bulked up a little bit. I just think it's so much pressure, and if you can somehow relieve the pressure of a defensive back to slide over a little bit to give Marvin Harrison Jr. some room, then I would have loved that. But maybe they want to try Michael Wilson again, and I can't. I'll try it another year. And I love Michael Wilson. I'm not hating on Michael Wilson. I think he's a good depth guy, but I think you need a home run guy in the slot or an outside. Like, you look at the league right now, like the Vikings specifically with Jordan Addison, he went off this year. Naylor as a third receiver, and you saw Justin Jefferson still produce because those guys were open and giving Justin Jefferson one-on-one opportunities. I do think a run game with James Conner could also aid Marvin Harrison Jr., but I just wanted to see, even like a Jack Besh, even though he's in the 2nd round, but I wanted to see them maybe glance at a receiver, and we'll see what they do in the 7th. Maybe they'll go, I don't know, Ricky White Jr. out of UNLV or something, but I don't know how they're going to, implement in the offense. I think they're just probably going to be a practice squad guy and slowly make their way into the depth chart like Xavier Weaver. But that's my only get, as I would have liked receiver. And if I had to pick it over somebody, Denzel Burke, I would have liked in that spot at least. We'll see with Denzel Burke, quarterback out of Ohio State. I still can't get out of my mind that Oregon game last year where Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart were just running go routes on him the entire game. But what were your thoughts about? Because were you thinking about receiver? Like, what were your expectations for the Cardinals to get a receiver? Did you want a receiver, or are you fine with how this offense is?
If I'm being honest, I was just rooting for the kid from Washington State, Williams, for you. I was like, this guy really wants him. I was like, I just want Jackson to get his guy. If I'm being completely honest with you.
No one talking about him. I'm like, man, if this guy performs like an all-pro, I'm going to look like Daniel Jeremiah out here.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was one guy that I was like, and then I had Donnie Druin on my show too, because he covers the Arizona Cardinals and he does a lot of really good work too. And he told me the same guy. He's like, I just really want, and I was like, you know what? 2 guys I really respect and like, I just want him here. but it's hard to argue with what the Cardinals did in the first 3 rounds. So when the 4th round came around, that's where I would have looked at the receivers, but it's kind of hard. And I'm going to make a really bad argument because you had just mentioned the Minnesota Vikings and didn't even mention that they have TJ Hawkinson there as well. And for me, the Cardinals is like, people forget that the wide receiver 2, for that matter, honestly, probably the wide receiver 1 is Trey McBride. And so you have Marvin Harrison Jr. You still have an all-pro worthy player in Trey McBride.
Good point.
Neither of us, and I think you're in the same boat as me as we wind down here, it's neither of us think Michael Wilson sucks or is average at all. We just don't know because he doesn't get enough opportunities. The opportunities that we do see from Michael Wilson are mostly good. That's why you and I are like, I don't know, it's year 3. He hasn't done it. Like every time he gets the ball, he does something well. But the problem is he just never gets the damn football. It's like, that's a little bit of the worry. Greg Dortch, whatever, like fan favorite, cool. I like him better as my 4th wide receiver. I really like Xavier Weaver, who I think is probably happy with what the Arizona Cardinals did because now he's probably going to make the opening day roster using a baseball slang there.
I think he could be a 2. I think he's got.
I love Xavier Weaver. Me too. Being out in training camp too, I kept on telling people on the sidelines because I watched a lot of Colorado football, and I was like, I know the measurables aren't there, and it's like the same thing with like Jack Sawyer or Cam Scattaboo. There are just some guys that you're like, sorry man, he's just gonna work. I don't know why he doesn't have any of the measurables, and Xavier Weaver probably shouldn't have made the Cardinals 53-man roster last year, but he did. Because he's a good player, twitchy, instinctive with the ball in his hands, and a little shifty to where like people just can't necessarily stay with him. Is he more of a 3 in my opinion? Probably. And I really like the Michael Wilson thing. I would have liked a wide receiver, but it was just kind of lower down on my list because you have James Conner, you have Trey Benson. It's not like they're starving for talent. Trey Benson, who was a 3rd-round pick last year, James Conner, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. We like Michael Wilson. We just need to see more of it. And so I think it really came down to the Cardinals were like, Drew Petzing, you just need to figure it out. Like we're not going to give you more players to figure it out with. You need to just make this offense work. And I'm honestly okay with that. It's not like last year when they just completely neglected the edge rusher position and they had no one there. You and I both see the talent on offense and we're like, figure it out. So that's where I would go. If there's anything I would say in closing, it's just like,
real quick. When we talk about Xavier Weaver, I think the one thing about him, though, and all these receivers, they always say, like, the measurables aren't there. If he can get open and if he can catch the football, it sounds like a lazy take. Like, oh, Jackson, duh. Like, his releases and stuff. That's all I care about. That's what Xavier Weaver can do, and he's going to do it in the NFL because no one can guard this guy. Like, this guy is shifty as can be. He's twitchy. So I'm excited to see him in year 2. I'm looking right now. I know we're probably going to end soon, and round 7 will happen. Tez Johnson at Oregon is interesting. He hasn't come off the board yet. I know he didn't perform well in the combine with his 40, but you watch his Senior Bowl one-on-ones. He was dicing guys left and right. Another guy who's has great releases, twitchy. Xavier Restrepo, Isaiah Bond, I kind of stay away from with the whole case thing going on in Texas. Those are guys to me real quick. And I know by the time this comes out, the whole draft's going to be ended. But those are guys that I'm like, man, like if the Cardinals are there, why not throw a 7th-round pick at Tez Johnson? Again, another guy in the Big Ten, great story with Bo Nix. Why not? Another guy exactly like Xavier Weaver. So we'll see what they do. The comment below who the 7th-round pick is because by the time we're recording this, we have no idea.
Yeah. At that point, they'll have the pick number 225. Actually, I'm thinking about it. We're so close to it. I might even just stick with it for a second because the reasoning why I want to is this has nothing to do with the Cardinals, but I did advocate for this guy to be an option for the Cardinals, whether at pick 16 when that was potentially a thought, which that really didn't happen. And round 2, Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to be happy with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of the few people that's like, I don't know, just think about it. Like, just think about it. I'm not saying you have to do it, but like, just do your extensive research, think about it. And the fact that the entire NFL world said, we're good, that's no longer an NFL issue. Sometimes you just need to look in the mirror. And I do that oftentimes when I screw something up. I'll go over and ask my wife, be like, hey, like, this happened. Is this me? I'll ask, like, I'll be like, someone needs to tell me if I'm the issue. Shedeur Sanders might be great. I don't know. I have my worries because if he's so great, even with all the off the field issues, which is mostly just attitude based, someone should have taken a flyer, which leads me to believe he's too small, plays a little too much hero ball. Yeah, he's accurate, but does he really have the arm strength to succeed? I've got to be really honest with you, because he's someone that I thought the Cardinals should kick the tires on, that I think it's worth talking about. It pissed me off because someone like myself and you can relate to this too. We're grinding. We work other jobs. Pete, we constantly get passed over for things that we think we're qualified for. And you and I don't complain about it out to the public. Oh, it's the rest of the world's fault. No, maybe you and I just need to be a little bit better. And so what pissed me off, I don't even care about the Mel Kiper thing because I don't think it was just him. I thought it was all of them outside of Reese Davis, who told him to go to hell.
Dude, I didn't even watch that. I was watching the NFL Network.
It was great. It was great. He went right after him. And that was my point exactly. It's like, if the whole world is telling you have an attitude problem, it's not all the extenuating, made up circumstances that you're trying to say they are. Maybe you have an attitude problem. So when I saw ESPN saying, this is just disgusting that the NFL would let this happen, it's like, if you really cared about Shedeur Sanders, you would say, and I want him to succeed as well, the NFL's better when quarterback play is good. I'm not going to root against him. Plus, I don't care enough to root against him. I hope he plays well. But if you continue to say, for a guy that has character issues or maybe a little too cocky, whatever that sounds like, if you really cared about him, you'd say, hey, man, congrats on getting drafted finally. Work on maybe the confidence maybe comes off his cockiness a little too much. I know sometimes that can happen with me, and I have to be careful with what I say and do. Be coachable and be just a little bit more humble. Don't not believe in yourself, but be a little bit more humble. And that's where I think I would go with that. It's like, stop blaming the NFL world for saying your attitude doesn't outweigh your talent. We're in a world where we're consistently looking for quarterback talent. Stop blaming everyone else and look in the mirror. What was your take on the Shedeur Sanders situation? Am I just a jerk, or is it fair?
No, you're spot on. When he kept falling, I was thinking about you because I'm like, could the Cardinals get him? Like, could the Arizona Cardinals get him? And if he did, like, oh my gosh, Ben said, Shedeur Sanders first round. I am puzzled by the Browns getting him after getting Dylan Gabriel, in the third round. I do think it's good value, I guess. I do think added on to all the character issues and stuff, it is interesting about the the anonymous report with the meetings. And honestly, it sounds true because I could see him just saying like, hey, I'm that guy. All the stuff that Deion's, dads are supposed to support his sons, but he kind of goes to the excessiveness. And, I played with someone at Montana that got a starting job because his dad was a head coach and never really had to work for it. And it definitely pissed a lot of people in the locker room. So I think that has to do with something too. I think the media attention is a real thing in the NFL where, hey, we don't want this guy to run the league. We don't want this guy to be the talk of the town. I don't want all these cameras. I don't want all this media attention around. The Browns are an organization that say, hey, maybe we want some media attention because we've been a horrible organization forever, long history of quarterbacks. It's a weird situation. And I kind of, when Twitter was going on, all these clips started coming out of Shedeur, and then you really think about like his record in college, and you think about, some of the plays that he made. Like, I kind of sat back and I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I wasn't super duper high on Shedeur. Like, I wasn't like quarterback 2 or he should be the first quarterback off the board. But I definitely was like, the NFL is making a statement with him falling to the 5th round. And I hope he does well. I think it's a weird quarterback room with Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel. Like, that's such a weird room to me. But I definitely think we all, like, as people in this business, we got to realize, like, the NFL just did not evaluate him like that. And from the jump too with Cam Ward, they said he would be the sixth quarterback taken last year. So yes, like, Shedeur was gonna fall. People were mad because Jackson Dart got picked over him. Well, Jackson Dart, I mean, the arm, he's a leader. He comes from Ole Miss. He comes from the SEC. Like, he's a winner. I like Tyler Shuck. I like that pick out of Saints, even though people are hating him because Shedeur didn't get picked with the Saints. Like, that's another guy that's got a lot of experience. He is 80, but I feel like in today's football with a team like the Saints that Derek Carr could not play, you need a guy that could start immediately. Like, I like that pick for them. So I don't know. I don't have too much heartburn for. I'm glad he finally got drafted because we can finally stop talking about it. But I also feel like too, the networks and ESPN and all these, they do a good job, I guess. But I also feel like them shoving down Shedeur down our throats for about 2.5, 3 months. A lot of these teams just got tired of it.
Well, here, let me ask you this, and I don't mean to make it a Shedeur Sanders fest, but I think I was the only person that was out there advocating of just think about it. Like, just get an interview with him. And maybe they did behind closed doors and they didn't like what they heard. And this is why you should be kind of happy that the Cardinals didn't draft Shedeur Sanders. And it's this. Shedeur Sanders, the biggest knock on him is the character issues, the outspoken confidence, the quickly to give blame like he did in that game against Nebraska. He blamed the offensive line for him not having any time, for him getting hit. He literally said, look at Dylan Raiola. How many times did he get hit in that game? And then again, going up to the Colorado State University quarterback, who's probably going to be a tax guy 2 years from now, and trashed talking him at the end of the game.
Well, and also, did you watch that BYU game last year, the Alamo Bowl? Like, Shedeur was horrible.
Oh yeah, he was terrible.
He was awful. Yeah, he was awful. So it's like you sit back and you look at some of these quarterbacks that got picked before him, like Milroe. He's got the running ability and he could do something like
high character
guy. Dylan Gabriel. People don't like Dylan Gabriel because he's short, but he's super accurate. And if he wasn't short, I think he'd get picked a lot higher. He's another high character dude that will be a quality backup for a while. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have too much heartburn over Shedeur. Those are just kind of my last comments on that. If you got any more comments, I actually have something that I want to throw at you too.
Yes, do it. Let me just ask you this really quickly about the Shedeur thing. Why Cardinals fans should be like, yeah, Ben, you were wrong, and here's why. What did we just talk about for 40 minutes? The Cardinals want high character guys, outspoken about loving their teammates and quick to take the blame, quick to distribute credit to everyone else. If I told you there was a team that took a flyer on a guy who had clear character issues and clear leadership issues, and I asked you who it was, why would you tell me it was the Cleveland Browns? And why is it the cherry on top that the one organization that no one takes seriously was like, we'll take him. This is the 5th round. Run to the podium. We want that guy. That's my point. And so, yeah, absolutely add on to what you were going to say. But that's my point. Is it's just like the Browns said, we'll take him, who have been an organization that no one has taken seriously for 100 years. And the Cardinals, who are slowly changing the trajectory of what they are, high character guys built through the draft. We're only taking Ohio State, Big Ten, SEC guys. And the Browns were like, hell, why not? Throw him in that quarterback room. It's so Browns, and it's it should just be oh, the NFL guys were right. That makes sense. I'm sorry. Continue. Say what you were going to say.
No, you're good. I was going to throw at you a little something that we didn't prep beforehand. If you look at the NFC West as a whole, I want to get your thoughts. Pull it up right now. All the teams in the draft, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Rams. I think we should kind of glance at what the rest of the division's doing and kind of compare it to the Arizona, not based on who they got, addressing their needs. How does this NFL draft? Because basically, I mean, the offseason's done, right? I mean, the offseason's done. There's still some guys in free agency, which I don't know if Monty's a big sign a lot of guys after the draft, or maybe he's one of those guys that he won't sign somebody until July or early August. But when you look at the other guys, other teams in the division, the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams, is there one to you that, or maybe even a couple that you're like, man, I like this pick, or I like this draft class and what they did? Or do you think the Arizona Cardinals were number one out of the NFC West?
Well, I think the Cardinals had the best draft. I don't necessarily know how close that is, and I feel like people can believe me at this point because I am not someone that's just going to say they had a great draft. Outside of Michael Williams, I'm not exactly sure what the 49ers are doing. They need to get offensive help, as a whole. Tell about Brock Purdy. Their offensive line was not great last year. Their wide receivers, they just let Deebo Samuel walk out the door. Now, Brandon Ayuk, they got the kid from ASU who was a Florida Gator as well. And then they got Jawan Jennings. But George Kittle's getting older. The offensive line's not great. Christian McCaffrey is does anyone believe he's going to stay healthy again? Jordan Mason's gone. I don't think they did enough to help out Brock Purdy. And God, I can't wait for that guy to get paid. The Seahawks, I mean, they drafted Jalen Milroe, which I think tells you what they think about Sam Darnold. Like, we like you, but just in case, we're gonna bring.
He's such a good dude. Where it's like, I hope you do well, but not too well, because we play you twice a year. Like, I hope you do well, and it's funny too. I mean, you connect the dots. Like, Mike McDonald came from the Ravens, he was around Lamar Jackson forever, and it's like, of course, he drafts Jalen Milroe, a guy that's probably going to be faster than Lamar Jackson. To your point about the Niners. Really shocked about them not even picking up a receiver till the 4th round. I mean, I like Jordan Watkins. He's a shorter wide receiver. He had great production at Ole Miss alongside, Trey Harris. But you're right. They didn't really help him at all. And now they're going to have Ricky Pearsall, who was a first rounder. He's going to have to step up. Ayuk, who's coming off of an injury. And then the kid out of Arizona, I blank on his name. I actually like him, but he's kind of a slot receiver.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot his name too, but I know who you're talking about. He's a little speedster over the top guy.
I mean, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. They got Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, and Jacob Cowing, the other guy.
Cowan. Really quickly, because we probably should end this. No one's gonna watch an hour and a half of two whack jobs speaking.
You could always cut it too when the pick happens. I mean, the pick's almost gonna happen too.
I guess that's a good point too, but no. It's what I wanted to.
I don't want to break down the 7th round pick.
I don't think it's gonna be a game changer. I don't think we're coming in talking about that guy as like, this is what the Cardinals need. And I think some of the wide receivers that you hit, I think it's a potential. It could be one of those guys as well, who I do think had a pretty good draft. I thought the Rams had a good draft.
Dude,
they got a 1st round pick for next year for pick. What was it, like 27? And
are the Falcons insane for that, or what? That makes the Jaguars trade look a lot better. People in the comments on TikTok, I mean that trade is crazy.
That trade was
still.
bad. The trade was bad
but
too.
On TikTok, people are like, "Oh well, they traded a 1st rounder for a 1st rounder. Like they got the Rams 1st rounder this year for James Pierce and give it their one next year." I'm like, dude, they're not going to be a great team next year. The Rams have 2 first round picks.
Penix sucks? What if Michael Penix sucks? They might be a top 5 pick. Like, it's so stupid.
Dude,
like, they might get
I saw that. I'm like, are you kidding me?
They might have just handed them their replacement quarterback to Matthew Stafford next year. Now it's not going to be Arch Manning or something like that, because like 2 first round picks isn't going to get you up there. And I don't think the team who's the number 1 overall pick is going to give up that pick anyways. But like one of the guys next year, they just handed them him. And then as well as it's been pretty documented that the Rams wanted to get a tight end. And I really like the guy they got as well. So that's a little frustrating, because like anytime you give Sean McVay a new offensive weapon. So I think the Cardinals, because they just got more players. Now next year, it's probably going to be the Rams, because they're going to get more players. Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and I have no idea what the hell the Niners are doing. And it just continues to lead me to believe Adam Peters was the one kind of running the show. And then once he went over to the Commanders, John Lynch kind of got his pants pulled down. And I don't think that's great. So that's where I'll end with that, man. Any closing comments?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Terrence Ferguson, they said Sean McVay last year tried to trade up for Brock Bowers. This year was interested in Colston Love when he came to 10 for the Bears. Terrence Ferguson, he's not up to that level, but he's the same type of receiving tight end, a skinny guy who's aggressive and could be that. He's more athletic than Tyler Higbee. You're right. It's another weapon to add on to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I like that they got a defensive tackle at Ohio State, Ty Hamilton. They also, alongside the Cardinals, a bunch of SEC and Big Ten guys. I would say them one. I hate the Seahawks so much, but I do like them getting Zabel and Iman Wari back to back. I think Iman Wari just screams Cam Chancellor. Like, they didn't have a pro comp for him. His pro comp was DK Metcalf, because they had the same NFL combine numbers and measurables, which is kind of funny. And you're right. The San Francisco 49ers did not help Brock Purdy at all. That was one thing too in this draft as a whole. And my closing thoughts is a lot of these like younger quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are on contracts, like their coaches helped them out a lot, which was pretty cool. Like the Patriots, the Bears. You're right. The Niners with a team that just lost Deebo Samuel. You didn't even like think about getting a receiver. You just wanted to get more defensive tackles and edge rushers when you've already got it. So yeah, I agree. For the Cardinals specifically, though, I would say B+. You're right. Perfect grade. Arizona Cardinals. I'm looking forward to training camp and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to to keep extending this, but I want to because I need to ask this question because it's just a great, easy social media clip, and I am just brain rot when it comes to that.
Sure.
Are the Cardinals a playoff team after the selections that they've made, after free agency, after the draft? Yeah, we're both Cardinals fans. Cool. Call us fanboys. I don't really care. People who've been here long enough know that's not the case. Are they would you be disappointed now if they're not a playoff team?
Yes. Yes, I would be disappointed.
Division winner? Can you go that far? Are they a division winner?
The Rams is, to be honest, the Rams are the only team that really scares me. The Seahawks with Sam Darnold, I'm sorry, their offensive line is going to be horrible next year again. And you saw what he did the last 2 weeks with a bunch of pressure. And with the team now with the Cardinals, at that defensive line, Rallis is going to bring a ton of pressure behind him. The Rams is the only one that scares me because McVay, like, even when you thought they were out, they started horrible last year. They turned it around. They ended up making the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, and they almost beat the Eagles.
They went into the NFC divisional game. They almost beat the Eagles.
Yeah, and if it doesn't snow, maybe Matthew Stafford wins that game. Yeah. I would say second place is definitely in the running. You do wonder, though, with the other wild card teams, like the Cardinals are going to have to win 10, 11 games next year because unless the NFC North just kind of cancels each other out, that's going to be a really good division. How do the Commanders look? The NFC South, I'm not even going to mention. So, yeah, I think it'd be disappointing just based on how much better they got defensively. The Cardinals are definitely a playoff team, in my opinion, or they should be. What do you think?
Are they a fringe playoff team, or are they firmly 5 or 6? Because I feel like 7 is like that team that probably shouldn't be in, but they extended the playoffs so they're going to be in now. But with all the guys they got, maybe they're not the division winner, but are they the 5, 6 seed? They're not playing the 2 seed in the very first week. So it tells me that you kind of believe that they're still a fringe team.
I'll say firm because I do go back to my point with the Packers with Jordan Love last year, kind of weird. JJ McCarthy with the Vikings, how does that look? Caleb Williams, is he going to improve from last year with an offensive line? I'm going to say if there's anywhere between a fringe and is there anywhere in between that, like a fringe and a firm? That's where I would be, like right in between. I know that's like a cop-out answer. Boo. Like, firmly. Yeah, there you go. Firmly fringe playoff team. What do you think?
I would say, as I fixed my camera again because it decided it wanted to go just super blurry on me, I'd say that they're for sure a playoff team. And I think anything less than that would mean after what the Cardinals got in free agency and after what they got in the draft, I think they're firmly a playoff team, and it would be disappointing if they weren't in the running for a division winner and they lose out on it in the last week because of tiebreakers or because the Rams, whatever, beat them out the very last week of the season. But they're firmly that 5 seed at this point, where last year they were nearly a playoff team, but they could not get to the passer. And now with the improvements of their pass rush, it now went from the worst in the league, or at minimum bottom 3, to a firmly average defensive front where, yeah, maybe that's not blowing anyone away, but if they had that, they win like 3 more games. And I say firmly average because they don't have that Myles Garrett or that Micah Parsons or that Max Crosby, but they have just a lot of really solid dudes, combined with the fact that Jonathan Gannon can just manufacture blitzes now really well. So I would say they're firmly a playoff team and in the running to win the division, but I'll give the division to the team that I gave the division last year, and everyone called me crazy. I said the Rams would win it, and they did. And so at this point, I think they're firmly the 5 seed, which is like you're in and you're not going to play the toughest team. So for me, that's where I would go. And you and I are just going to stay here for the next 2 minutes while the Cardinals make their last selection. And we'll just make this a firm hour because there's truly no one I really enjoy talking ball with than you, especially when it comes to this college stuff. So that's where I would go with this as we wait for this last pick for the Cardinals. And I think that that's firmly fair. I think it's very fair, and I think it's fair expectations. And if they don't reach those expectations, that being the Cardinals making the playoffs next year, it's because we're talking about Kyler Murray didn't do enough. And there are no more excuses. Stop blaming Drew Petzing. Stop blaming the weapons. Stop blaming the defense. If he can't get this team to the playoffs, we're drafting another quarterback next year. And that just is what it's going to be. Your final thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Your
I mean,
final,
it's
third thoughts on that?
final. Yeah, you're right. It's gonna come down to Kyler, man. I mean, December, January.
It's so
You and me have been at bat for this guy for so long, which makes me mad because this guy blocked me on Instagram, which I don't understand.
Oh,
I'm like,
he
what?
blocked me too.
Like,
Yeah,
what bad things have I said about you? I have your jerseys in the back here. Like, dude, I've been batting for you the year. I think it was year 3 when he had that big deep ball against the Vikings. Looked like the NFL MVP, and then he gets hurt, and then they make the playoffs and the whole 12-0 run. Yeah, like I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, all these people want to get rid of Kyler. I love Kyler. He's better than half the quarterbacks in the league. And then he just blocks me on Instagram. I'm like, dude. Now I'm like, okay.
To be fair, he does have a social media manager, and I think this is important to add to this caveat. I'm not sure it was Kyler that blocked us. I think it might have been his social media.
I haven't even made any content about Kyler, which is funny. You getting blocked, I get it.
Yeah, I'm whether it's I wear this stuff as a badge of honor, dude. I don't want these people to think I want to be these guys' friends. I don't want to be. I want to hold them accountable. So Kevin Durant, when he calls me a clown, or Kyler Murray blocking me on social media, I'm just waiting for Devin Booker to do it next. Kitan Crawford from Nevada is the safety pick for the Arizona Cardinals. So you and I could have ended this 15 minutes ago.
I was going to say we waited 15 minutes for
they gave up. They got another backup
Nevada.
Safety, and this is their flyer pick, man. This is where you get aggressive. This is where you show and flex your draft muscles.
Small guy.
Hey, listen, no one knows who this guy is from the Wolf Pack. Let's go get him and show everyone that I know what I'm doing. So heck of a name for a safety, but probably is what it is. Just a depth guy. Likely no wide receivers.
Speaking of safety, I do think the Rabbit's going to have a really good year next year.
Excited.
I love the Rabbit, dude.
So,
I love the Rabbit.
That's my guy, Jackson Groff. Sorry that, we just decided we're going to wait till that last pick. Probably could have waited. But a lot of good nuggets of information here. Follow this guy, man, on everything. At the Groff Show, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, at Jackson Groff on Twitter and on Instagram. If you want to see all of his personal stuff, just watching his sister
TikTok
getting married
too.
the other day.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I need to make it all one handle. I need to make it all one handle.
That's what I did. And people make fun of me for it. But you know what? It is what it is. People make fun of me. Kevin Durant goes after me. Kyler Murray doesn't like me. Hey, listen, I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here to hold these teams accountable. That's Jackson Groff. I'm Benjamin Garcia. Jackson, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you, bro. Anytime.